Hey, what's up? It's Joe. Welcome to my Freestyle Friday for January 10th. So, things in my mind this week, I've been having some cognitive dissonance with a few things, and maybe I'll just kind of lay it out for you. So, the first thing is a few conversations I've had over the week, and they couldn't have been more different. So, one was with a um, person who runs a data uh, industry research firm who, according to the data this person has, um, BI vendors and BI in general feels like it's sort of a dying thing for a lot of reasons. And then on the flip side, you talk to people who are, in the BI space, mainly as vendors, and it's a different story, right? It feels like it's, kind of an exciting time to be in BI. The I guess unlocking of your ability to chat with your data, so to speak, that's coming into the fore with generative AI and chatbots and probably agents at some point, whatever that workflow looks like. And it got me thinking sort of the divide between the two things, right? So you have typical kind of old school BI on one hand, where it's this, reports, dashboards, often created by humans. Now, on the other hand, you have AI, creating reports on and dashboards or quote insights on practically any variation of a chat input that is given to the AI, right? So you can have these two extremes, and it got me thinking just about what the nature of interfacing with data is going to look like. I don't see dashboards going away in the traditional sense. I think that due to the Lindy effect alone, these will be around. For as a reminder, the Lindy effect basically means that the longer something has been around in technology, the longer it will continue being around. You can look at things like SQL and Bash and C and other things like that for examples of Lindy, right? And I I think in much the same way, people are so used to looking at charts, dashboards, visualizations of data we've had it for decades, that I think just to suddenly rip that out and replace that with a chatbot. I made this comment the other day where I was like, okay, so let's do a thought experiment. If we had a car, in a car, when you drive it, it typically has, the gauges, right? Like oil, your speedometer, right? Your gas tank, and so forth. And you're used to looking at these things when you drive. And so the thought experiment I laid out was, what would happen if you suddenly replaced all of those indicators with a chatbot in your car? And anytime you wanted to know how fast you're going, you'd need to ask, what's my speed? Right? So you could see where this would go. I mean, it would just be, unless you have a self-driving car, this would be an absolute catastrophe for a human driver. And in much the same way, right? I think there's just certain business metrics that people use to operate their business, and these are often presented in the form of dashboards. And so it kind of makes, so I think, some of the comments I saw online this morning, and definitely agree with this. I think Chow is one of the people from Databricks, but he really correctly pointed out, along with Paul Blankley from but I felt like it was one of these things where it's sort of probably both, right? Where you have your traditional BI dashboards, alongside chatbots that can enable you to answer more of the edge type questions. And and again, this brings me back to another thing, which is utilization, right? So what's the utilization of the current dashboards? This is where I've been having cognitive dissonance, is that, at least in my experience, and when I talk to data teams and analysts and people who maintain a lot of dashboards, dashboard utilization isn't great. I think there's early excitement when a dashboard is created. Maybe for core metrics, people look at them. But for the most part, what you find is a drop off in usage of these reports and dashboards. I've had to deal with this myself, right? And my boss encouraged me to actually stop sending out reports in order to figure out who was utilizing them. This is before we had the ability to track it, with trackers and so forth. But utilization is definitely a big one where, if the current questions that people want to ask aren't being looked at, I suppose, with the answers that are provided, with dashboards that are updated daily, it kind of makes me wonder what the usage is of these chatbot enabled BI workflows. I mean, I think time will tell, right? But it definitely makes me wonder if your question, if the main questions that you need to run your business aren't even being looked at in the first place. Again, this is a supposition. In this example here, obviously a lot of dashboards are used as well. But let's take the case where you have dashboards that aren't being used, and then you're going to throw a chatbot on top of it. I don't know that that's going to solve the problem or allow or open up the doors for people to ask more questions of their data, which I think is sort of the end goal of all of this. I think it really comes down to, do you have a culture that uses data for decisions in the first place? Or is it more of a kind of a gut-driven organization, or I guess back in the day I called this a hippo driven culture, where the hippo stands for the highest paid person's opinion. So, but a lot of cases that's the case, right? So I think that's the tension I've been thinking about is, we have a lot of these amazing workflows, allows you to chat with your data and so forth, but even the basics, right? Depending on the company you're at, the basics aren't even being used. And these basics answer, it's a Pareto rule. It's the 20% that answers like 80% of the questions you need to run your business. When you run your business, there's a few things you need to watch, right? Like cash flow, if you're online, are you growing users, whatever metrics you're looking at. But at the end of the day, to me, I'm pretty old school. I look at cash in, cash out. Am I making money? Am I not making money? Right. And that's kind of the bottom line of that. And I think ultimately that's how any business works. Now, of course, you can have metrics that help drive growth, help drive whatever you're trying to achieve. But at the end of the day, to me, it is about money in, money out. Fundamentally, that is the oxygen of a business is cash flow. But then, and the goal of a business is to one of the goals is obviously grow your revenues, right? So, but those can be addressed with a pretty simple graph, right? Is it going up? Is it going down? And then I guess if you know your business well enough, which I hope you do, then you can address the causal factors of what can help move those. But at the end of the day, it's like, the other concern is you're going to keep asking all these different questions of your business and your data, which is great. But I do feel like there's a point of diminishing returns with this kind of stuff, where at some point are you better off focusing on serving the customer and working on your business, or asking questions about it? And if you're just asking questions about it and not taking any action, I would say you're wasting your time, right? So the first thing I would always do when I was asked for reports or dashboards is I would ask, what action do you intend to take on this information, right? Because in some cases, what you'd realize is this report probably doesn't need to be made if there's no action that's going to be taken. If it's a gee whiz kind of thing, like I just kind of need some quote insights, I'm like, well, that's great, but I have other things to do. So, I think that question really helped, at least I think, cause people to think about the requests, right? And so I think the other danger of asking too many questions of your data is that you feel like you're accomplishing something while you're not really doing anything at all. And so I think the temptation is to call this kind of stuff work when it's potentially just wasting time. I mean, it's nice, you learn some cool things, and you might get quote insights out of it. But again, businesses, in my opinion, you should probably only have like 2 to 3 core metrics that you're operating against, and that should be your North Star. If you have dozens of North Stars, I think that you might be, again, I guess it depends on the company you're at, right? Apparently Amazon has hundreds of metrics they use in their weekly business reviews and so forth. But again, those, it's not like everybody looks at all 400. You're looking at what the ones that matter for your team and its impact in its operations. And so anyway, I'm curious to see where this goes. I mean, I'm it's cool, that you can ask a lot of interesting questions of your data and so forth with chat. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I think it opens up a lot of opportunities to, I think unlock maybe some things in your business you don't quite understand. This also assumes that the data that's being queried is correct and is a good quality and hopefully modeled well. That's a can of worms I talked about before, but it's this is where it's going, and I just hope that we proceed with I guess a sense of sober realism when we use these tools. I think there's a lot of excitement, but if you're not getting it, but the thing that I can see this crashing down is if people use it a couple times, they don't seem to get the value out of the chat, right? Then it's going to go the way that most dashboards go, which is nowhere, and nobody uses them. And then as data teams, we're kind of back to square one. And so I just hope that we're doing it the right way. When somebody asks a question, they get a great answer, they get an actionable answer that helps them drive their business, and and that we continue, I think, embracing the old school ways, right? Like, think of how much energy it takes to create a simple bar chart versus using an LLM, right? One of these you could do in Excel, the other requires a lot of sophistication. So I also think what you're going to start seeing is a kind of a backlash against AI for everything. I mean, I already saw this in a Slack chat the other day where somebody was asking about sentiment analysis and using LLMs for that, and somebody just chimed in, well, I mean, you could do this with depending on the sentiment analysis you're doing, you could just use this a much simpler technique for training on this set of data, right? So I think I think we're finding the usefulness of LLMs and generative AI in general and agents, and I think we'll figure out what sometimes old school is good. Sometimes the immense power of the new school is great, and probably somewhere in between, right? You pick what you need. Like, I don't need to use an LLM when a simple calculator will do just fine, right? So anyway, that's my rant for today. For the book, I just shipped out 2 sections of the relational modeling chapter. Those are both free, actually, at practicaldatamodeling.substack.com, so I encourage you to check that out. The next parts that will be coming out are on, quote, non-relational modeling, actually. So this is the other part of application modeling. We're talking about NoSQL systems, streaming, and so forth. So that'll be coming out over the next week or so. And then after that, it'll be analytics. And after that, machine learning and so forth. And then the book should be in pretty good shape after those. But what else? Oh, dropped a new Discord channel. You can find the URL in Practical Data Modeling or my Joe Reese Substacks in the chat, neither one of them. So I think got quite a few people in there already. It seems to have some great discussions already. So I think Discord is probably how we're going to go with the chats for the 2 communities and kind of bridge them together. So anyway, if you're interested in that, go check it out. Other than that, I'm just going to be taking care of a bunch of stuff, as always, business, content, whatever. And that'll be hopefully not all of my weekend, but a fair part of it. Also, the newsletter is being scaled back a bit. I'm just going to include the weekend newsletter. Just going to have links and events and so forth. If you're interested in having your links or anything in there, let me know. Opening maybe potentially up to sponsorship opportunities and so forth. So just message me about that. And anyway, hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.